Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulihil Kareem. Amma ba'd. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of all creation, the master of the universe, the owner of the day of recompense, the one whom we owe all of our gratitude and thanks to, the one who has given us the greatest blessing of the kalima la ilaha illallah, that we can recite with our tongues and we believe with our hearts. So we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. And we send all our blessings, prayers and blessings on the final prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. My dear respected brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves it when we struggle in this dunya. As we know, this dunya, this world is not something that is supposed to be perfect and everything is supposed to be easy for the believers here. This is a dunya where you have trials and tribulations. And one thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves is that when you go and you struggle for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you make sacrifices for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really loves that. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that those who struggle for us, for our path, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure, then indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides them to His paths, Meaning, why is paths here a plural? Because there's more than one path to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nevertheless, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you struggle for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide you to His way, to the proper path. And indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with those who do good deeds. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really loves it when we struggle for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we make sacrifices for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us the guidance, inshaAllah ta'ala. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, and this is the main point that I wanted to make today, is that we struggle and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us to struggle. But which way does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want us to struggle? In this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, save yourselves and save your families from the fire. From the fire. Save yourselves and save your families from the fire. That fire whose flame is lighted by people and stones, right? Whose fuel is people and stones. So here, what do we learn? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a command. He says, قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ, right? Save yourselves and your families. Allah is giving us a command here. So this is one of the best things that in this dunya that we should be struggling for. Struggling for to gain Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure by saving our families from the fire, right? Saving our families from the fire and making those sacrifices that we can build our future, especially for our children. Especially for our future and our children. As we can look, and as we know, that every generation, the next generation is going more far away from the deen. If we take a look back to our grandparents, we can say, oh, our grandparents used to do this and do that. Then our parents, slowly going away, and then us, and then our children. If we don't take a step to make it so that our children don't go less than us in the deen, then eventually our lineage will go away from the deen of Islam. So the reason I bring this up is because this past week, we had a scholar that came and visited us. He came actually to visit Yellowstone Park here. And somebody met him somewhere outside. And they brought him here to the masjid. And he was a scholar. He had 3 sons with him. And all 3 of his sons were huffaz of the Quran. They were huffaz of the Quran. And he brought him to the masjid here. And one of the kids, I asked him to do the adhan. And the other kid, I asked him that he can lead the Maghrib Salah for us, the Maghrib Salah. And after they were done doing the adhan and the Maghrib Salah, all the musallis that were there, they were very impressed. They said, wow, mashallah, such a beautiful recitation. And it wasn't just a regular recitation. It was that standard that those people that go and they can compete in the qira'ah competitions. That's how beautiful his recitation was, the son of this scholars. And then after they recited the salah, after we led the salah, one of the brothers that invited him here, he told the father, who was a scholar, and not only a scholar, he was a medical practitioner, he was a doctor. And he asked him, he said, can you give us a few words of advice? He said, yes. And he told us about his life. And I wanted to share that here today because we were really inspired and we were really happy to hear the advice that he gave us. And it was only a few brothers, so I wanted to share that with the rest of us here today. And the thing that he told us was that his 3 sons were huffaz. His 3 sons were memorizers, protectors of the Quran. And like I said, they were at a different level. It wasn't just like a regular reading the Quran. It was a level that you can compete in Quran competitions. That's how beautiful their Quran was. And so what happened is that he told us, he sat there and he said that I came here to the States in 1994. I moved here in 1994. And I was a medical practitioner, I was a doctor, and I was working in a small town in Florida. And that's where he is right now. He's an imam there as well. So he said I was working there. And what happened is that we were a very small community, a Muslim community there, because it was a small town already, and there was a very small Muslim population there. So we got together and we purchased a small little building that we can call the masjid, right? That we can call the masjid. So we started worshiping there, and a little while down, I don't know how long, he didn't specify how much time down the road, there was some hate crime that happened. And the people ended up burning down the masjid. And they were sad because they had a handful of people there, a little population of Muslims. It wasn't a big population of Muslims. So they said, how can we, get this money and how could we fix this? We cannot do this with the amount of people we have here. So now look at surprisingly enough, the non-Muslims at that time that were around, the Christians and different people of different faith, they started saying, oh, we feel bad for you, and they started giving checks to the brothers. But still, they raised about 60,000, and it was nothing, that they could do to fix their own masjid. Long story short, somebody told them there's another building down the road that they can purchase. Another building down the road that is actually a church, that is a very big church. And I forget the exact size, but 8 acres or something of land and stuff. And at that time, back then, you can imagine it was much cheaper than it is now. So what he decided, and this scholar that had the sons that were huffaz, what he decided was, he said, I had property that I had purchased there in the States, and then also back home in Pakistan, I had property. And what I decided to do was, I saved that for my children. I saved that for the future of my children. I saved the property for the future of my children. And when I saved that for my future of my children, what I decided to do after that was that this is more important, right? The future of my community, the future of my children here, because my children will be here. So what he did is he sold all of his property so they can purchase that. Still, they were short, and a few other Muslim brothers, they came together and they were able to purchase that property, right? And not only that, the other point that I wanted to make, it wasn't that, because as we know, doctors are very busy. And he was a doctor, he was a practicing doctor at that time. He said, I wanted to first he made a sacrifice with his wealth. Sacrifice of his wealth, right? He gave his wealth for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the second thing he did was, he said that I had to tighten my belt, is what he said. This is what I'm quoting. He said, I had to tighten my belt, meaning what? I had to take time from my work, and I cut time from my work. I gave less time to my work, and I gave more time to my children. And when he did that, he said, I taught my kids the Quran myself. He said, I taught the kids the Quran myself. Now, can we imagine the sacrifice that this person made? Now, today we shouldn't have an excuse. This was somebody that was a doctor, right? That was busy with that. He sold his property. He sold everything, and then he gave time to his children, and he made them beautiful Qur'an. And the people that were there, you can ask them if nobody believes me, how beautiful their recitation was. But these were the sacrifices that this individual made. And like I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened his path. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? That if you struggle for me, then I will open the paths for you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in exchange for that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his property, maybe we can say, how much was it worth today? Maybe millions of dollars, right? Let's say, for example. But what Allah gave him in exchange was huffaz of the Quran, protectors of the Quran. Imagine what he will get in the akhirah. So this was one of the things that I wanted to bring out today. But today, unfortunately, what we do is we're working and we're saving our money, and we think that this is what we're going to save it for our future and our children. That way, when we're gone, they have something to work with and live with. That is not, maybe that can be a source of helping them. But the greatest thing you can do is give them education, give them knowledge of Islam, spend time with them, and help them realize what being a Muslim is. And unfortunately, this is not what we're doing here today. And alhamdulillah, what we are trying to do here in our Islamic society is we have an after-school program as well, right? Where we're teaching the kids the Deen, we're teaching the kids the Quran. The least we can do, if we can't give our kids the time, then come and bring your kids here, bring your children here so they can learn the Quran, so they can learn the Deen, so they can know by the time they finish their kitabs here, how to live like a Muslim. What is the kalima? How to pronounce the kalima? A lot of our kids don't even know that today. Then later the people come to me, oh, make dua for my son. Make dua for my daughter. They don't know this. They're going away. They're being disobedient. If we're not teaching them, we're not giving them their time, then they will never come and listen to us. So we need to make the sacrifices and give our children that education and give them that time that we can, they can benefit. And by the time we leave this dunya, that we can be satisfied that when we leave this dunya, that our children will be people that will carry on the Deen for generations to come on. For generations. Now today what we do is we think it's muhabba, right? That we give them, let's give them some, television, or give them these cell phones. This is the biggest fitna out there today. Biggest fitna, because there's subliminal messages. There are messages that they're learning things that are against the Deen, and they're going away from the Deen. And we can't say that, oh look, our son, other people were watching, and I've witnessed this. Someone told me that I got my child this electronic device, whatever it was, iPad or something like that, because the other kids, they are having it and I didn't want my kid to think that I didn't get it. This might seem like, oh, you love your child, but in the long run, they're going to suffer. Why? Because this is the biggest cause of fitna nowadays. There's a lot of fitna on there, a lot of haram things that children should not be involved in. What we should give them is take time out and spend time with them, give them time to learn, and become people of the Deen, come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one more thing that we should take from this is that whatever happens in our daily lives, from our daily interactions, when we meet people, we learn their life stories, we learn things from them. What we should realize is that everything happens for a reason. And we should take a lesson from whatever happens and understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is telling us something whenever He is making us meet other people. And just like this individual, imagine, he was a medical doctor and he sacrificed his wealth, he sacrificed his time, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him beautiful children that were followers of the Deen, that were following the Deen. And not only that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in exchange, Allah gave them the Quran in their hearts, right? And this is the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that if you sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask you, okay, give. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sunnah is not that He takes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take and then He will return in manifold. Allah will give you much more than you actually can sacrifice yourselves. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that make it so that we can be those people that understand what we have said today. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that guide us and give us tawfiq to follow upon the Deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make those sacrifices for the Deen and our children and our future. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.